Hi everyone, my name is Tien. My honor thesis will be looking at the perceived racial mistreatments towards Asians. During the rise of the COVID-19 pandemic, there was a rise in Asian American hate. Experiencing various forms of hate, such as racial discrimination, can greatly affect an individual's physical and mental state. For example, it can lead to mental health issues such as depression and anxiety. With the rise in Asian American hate, it made me ask myself, well, are other racial/ethnic groups more aware of the mistreatments that Asian Americans are currently experiencing? This is tied to the concept of ethnocultural empathy, which is having empathy towards people outside your racial or ethnic cultural group. For this study, our research questions are Asians going to generate more mistreatments towards Asians? And will Hispanic Latinx responses be more similar to Asian participants' responses compared to white participants? I hypothesize that Asians will generate the most mistreatments towards Asians compared to Hispanic Latinx and white participants. Additionally, I hypothesize that Hispanic Latinx responses will be more similar to Asian responses compared to whites. Alternatively, Asians generate the least amount of treatments, and white responses will be more similar to Asian responses compared to Hispanic and Latinx responses. In order to keep everything equal, we had 126 participants from each racial group. The survey was developed on Qualtrics and distributed on Sona. During the data analysis process, all coders coded the Asian participants' responses. If none of the initial codes were representative of a response, we would create a new code. Then 3 coders each were assigned to randomly code either the Hispanic, Latinx, or white responses. Once all the codes were in, coders would code mistreatments one more time. The second time around, coders would discuss the responses that did not come to a general consensus and decide which code would best suit the response. During the process, we also created a due to COVID column, just because a lot of participants made comments about how certain mistreatments arose due to COVID-19. In the end, we excluded participants that failed the attention check and dropped responses that were coded other blanks and multiple mistreatments. Moving on to the design, this is a between subject study. As you can see, the Asians and non-Asian participants will receive a very similar survey. Both will fill out the consent and demographic section. Afterwards, they'll be given 2 minutes to generate mistreatments towards Asians. Then they'll be asked to pick 5 mistreatments. Next, they'll be asked to categorize, rate, and select how they know about these mistreatments. All the questions are essentially the same, except when participants reach step 4. At step 4, Asians can identify which mistreatments they have personally experienced, while non-Asians will not be able to state which mistreatments they have personally experienced until step 5. Moving forward is the final question section. In this section, both Asians and non-Asian participants will answer questions about the difficulty of the task and knowledge about mistreatments towards Asians. In addition, non-Asian participants will answer questions regarding how often they interact with Asian people. Next, their compassion and empathy levels will be measured. Lastly, they'll be asked to select which Asian ethnic group comes to their mind when they think of Asians. For the results, there is only a significant main effect for severity. Asians generate the most mistreatments, then whites and Hispanics came in last. Although Hispanic participants generate the least amount of mistreatments, their responses were significantly different from whites and Asians. Looking at figure 1, it shows the calculated effect size for differences between Asian and Hispanic Latinx participant severity level for all the common mistreatments. A negative effect size are mistreatments that were rated higher in severity by Hispanic Latinx, while positive effect size are mistreatments with higher severities to Asians. Asians and Hispanics had 21 shared mistreatments. In figure 2, a negative effect size are mistreatments with higher severities to whites, while positive effect sizes are mistreatments with higher severities to Hispanic Latinx. Hispanic Latinx and white participants had 20 shared mistreatments. Lastly, in figure 3, negative effect sizes are mistreatments with higher severities to whites, while positive effect sizes are mistreatments with higher severities to Asians. Asians and whites had 23 shared mistreatments. In conclusion, Asian participants generate more mistreatments compared to Latinx, Hispanics, and white participants, just like how we predicted. However, Hispanic Latinx participants generate the least amount of mistreatments and had the least amount of mistreatments overlap with Asian participants, yet the ratings of these mistreatments were significantly different. There were a couple limitations to the study. First, the sample came from UCSD students, which is a younger, more liberal population. Thus, the results may not be representative of the general population. Another limitation is that we're unable to assess whether or not some mistreatments occurred due to COVID-19. As mentioned earlier, we created a due to COVID column, but did not have enough time to analyze the data. As for future studies, we were interested in other factors that could affect how participants generated and rated the mistreatments. For example, we're curious as to how personal experience and sexuality could play a potential role. Thank you so much for watching this video and taking a look at my poster.